Well, conventionally attractive human, I come to you today to give you some shocking news, to say the least. And that shocking news is that during the release of Sonic and Shadow Generations officially across all platforms globally on October 25th, 2024, which was 2 days before my birthday, wink wink, Sega revealed in a press release that Sonic and Shadow Generations had already moved 1 million units globally. Now, we want to do comparison's sake, and I haven't actually verified this, but this sounds about right to me. It took Sonic Frontiers 1 month to reach 2.5 million units. So you know what that means? Sonic and Shadow Generations is already there after a single day. A day. Now, I know this includes like pre-orders and all that shit, but like a day, 1 million units already sold on launch day is crazy, bananas, insanity, absolute like fairy tale storylines is what I'm getting from this. It is absolutely unbelievable, and Sonic will never be the same. Sonic from this day forward is a completely different franchise, and all for the better. So what I want to talk about today is the impact of the sales numbers and how I can see this really affecting the Sonic franchise going forward, because I can see this going in a couple of different directions, but every direction sounds good to me. I can only think of really good things from this because there's something very special about this sort of game getting the success that it's getting. And so, first of all, if you haven't played Sonic and Shadow Generations, like, what are you waiting for? Go play it now, because it is, in my honest opinion, one of the best 3D Sonic games of all time. You know, arguably, maybe objectively, is the best 3D Sonic game of all time, because of course you already have like Sonic Generations in the package, which is a very solid 3D Sonic game in and of itself, but Shadow Generations is not only the best controlling 3D Sonic game of all time, but it's also one of the richest 3D Sonic games of all time. It's got some of the best level design in a 3D Sonic game. It's got one of the best stories in a 3D Sonic game. It's got one of the best soundtracks in a 3D Sonic game. Like, you can just go on and on and on. And this is really hard for me personally to say, actually, because I have gone on for years, even decades at this point, with a very, very clear top 3 in terms of Sonic games. That is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Sonic Heroes, and Sonic Generations. So obviously Sonic Generations is in here, so that already kind of helps, but Shadow Generations is legitimately challenging my top Sonic game spot, and that's complete insanity to me. So I don't know what to say to that. It's absolutely, it's what kind of timeline are we living in? What kind of twisted alternate dimension have I found myself in? Because this is not my reality. This is not the world that I grew up in. This is not real. This is not true. We're living in a fake news industry. I cannot emphasize enough how insane this is, that I'm even considering this being one of my favorite 3D Sonic games, because Sonic Heroes, Sonic Adventure 2, those are like bolt and locked in terms of like my top 2. Like, those are my top 2 3D Sonic games, my top 2 Sonic games overall, and nothing has ever been able to penetrate that until now. I'm gonna need a little time to really sit with Shadow Generations to really see if it is going to break that top 2, but for now, I just cannot sing the praises of the game enough, and to see the response that is coming out for this game, 1 million units sold on the first day, I mean, it says it all. This game is going to change everything. It is going to change the DNA of Sonic for the long run. And so I will say, I don't think this change came out of nowhere. Obviously, Sega has been building up to this. I mean, we can trace it all the way back to be honest, not even just Sonic Frontiers, but even Team Sonic Racing. Because Team Sonic Racing, if you all remember, contained a lot of throwback and homages to the adventure era. So they brought back Junson Yu, for instance, and made a very Sonic Adventure 2 style soundtrack. Lots of references to the previous Sonic games, specifically the adventure era. And now we're going to Sonic Frontiers, which has even more references and homages to the adventure era, and also a storyline that falls in line with that era as well. And now we're fast forwarding to Shadow Generations, which is just full blown out adventure love letter. A storyline that has the same exact tone, but also does callback to the games there in very specific and unique ways that feel like this is a true adventure style game in terms of tone and story and sound and aesthetic and whatever. The only thing missing is just an actual adventure gameplay, but you can even argue that they slowed down Shadow in this game enough that the white space area almost feels like an adventure style game. So it's just something that's obviously been brewing for a while now, and with the success of this game, I can only see that becoming an even more firm direction. And I think what's great about this direction is that it can go on side by side with like the classic era too, because we had Sonic Superstars last year, which goes towards that more like simplified, colorful aesthetic that Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors really tried vibing with. And I think both sides can coexist in harmony. I think they truly can. People that aren't really necessarily into this like advanced lore of Sonic the Hedgehog that Shadow Generations is really like promoting, I mean, I'm sure Sega still sees the value in continuing to put out 2D Sonic games that probably are going to be simple in storylines, because that's just a more natural fit for a 2D game at this point. So I think Shadow Generations is definitely going to be pushing the 3D side of Sonic into that direction a lot more. And obviously there's a lot of talk of like a Sonic Frontiers 2 coming, and if Sonic Frontiers 2 truly is coming, then we can definitely see a storyline that not only continues in that dark direction, but a storyline that also does a lot of callbacks to the previous entries in the series. Because Sonic Frontiers, it was very much focused on like a brand new thing, but there were still like references and mini storylines that you could dive into that reference previous games and previous storylines, you know, such as like Tails looking back on his time at Station Square when he had to face off against Eggman by himself, Knuckles' history in guarding the Master Emerald. I mean, you can go on and on and on. And I think that Shadow Generations proves that there's a lot of love for all the characters in the Sonic series. I mean, who would have thought that the best-selling 3D Sonic game potentially was going to be a game that's not even starring Sonic primarily? If the best-selling 3D Sonic game is going to be Shadow Generations, then what does that say about Sonic the Hedgehog? I mean, I think it's very much possible for them to make a Sonic game that eclipses Shadow Generations, but we'll just have to wait and see. They're really building that momentum right now, and Shadow Generations is going to keep that momentum at an all-time high. So by the time the next mainline 3D Sonic game comes out, people will be interested in it and people are going to buy it, because now Sega is starting to win back the trust of the general public, and people, when they see Sonic on that box art of whatever that next Sonic game is going to be, it is guaranteed to at least be a moderate success, because people are going to be expecting a quality that was there in Shadow Generations. And so I can definitely see them going in that darker, more edgy direction. I can definitely see them going in a less like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations like boost like format, and going for more of like a balanced format between boost and platforming, because that's something that I'm starting to realize I really like about Shadow Generations, and why I like the gameplay of this game so much more compared to other boost games. It's because the actual levels are in this game have a nice healthy balance of both boost and 3D platforming, and 3D platforming in a Sonic game has never felt so good. I swear, it has never felt as good as it does in this game. They finally have hit like a nice balance between boost and adventure, and if they weren't going to bring back the adventure formula, then this was going to be the next best thing. Creating an engine that can both incorporate fast-paced boost gameplay but also precise 3D platforming is such a winning formula to me, and Shadow Generations, as small of a taste as it is of what that could be, really is such a satisfying run to go through. And I can just imagine a game that is almost exactly like Shadow Generations in terms of content, but just like doubled in length or even tripled in length. That's going to be a 9 out of 10 game, a 10 out of 10 game. In fact, I consider the Shadow Generations portion a 9 out of 10 game. So it is just like the main problem I have with Shadow Generations at this point is that it's not long enough. I need more. We should have cut out the Sonic Generations portion, just did a whole ass game starring Shadow. So I am just like thinking that in terms of the type of game that the next mainline 3D Sonic game is, just give us an expanded Shadow Generations at this point. I mean, if you want to do more of the open world thing, then great, go ahead. But you really have nailed down the formula for how to make the perfect 3D boost gameplay level. You really have. And I just want more of it. Give us more of it. So that's my main thought in terms of like what the next main step for Sonic is. But I think something that we haven't really maybe been thinking about as much, but I think is actually a real possibility, is the exploration of other characters in this franchise. I think them like really honing in on Shadow this year has proven that people don't just like Sonic. People like other characters. Now, Shadow might be the most popular one, sure, but that doesn't mean you can't have like other projects starring other characters that can't do well as well. I mean, you have so many contenders. Obviously, you have like the main cast, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. I don't know if all of those characters really need their own games. Like maybe Knuckles, you could argue, could get like a 3D open zone like game as well, because his gameplay style is really really like fit for that kind of like gameplay style. But there's so many other characters in the Sonic franchise that if you explore them and come out with like successful games, they could be pretty successful entries into this franchise as well. I'm seeing a lot of hype for Silver in particular, which is interesting because I think that Silver is someone that against all odds has remained to be very popular in this franchise. I mean, unfortunately, he came out during one of the worst times in the franchise and did not have the best gameplay style that he debuted with. But nonetheless, people really like Silver as a character. They think that his concept is interesting, being from the future and stuff, but also they love his personality, and I really do think people just love the fact that he's a hedgehog. Like, I really do. For some reason, other hedgehogs in this series have a lot of popularity. Like, look at Shadow, obviously, and now Silver as well. The only one I guess is an exception is like Amy, but Amy has a whole nother can of worms to her that we're not gonna get into right now. So I could totally see them like maybe not doing like a whole ass year like they done with Shadow, but doing like separate entries starring other characters, I think could be a really great way to really expand upon like the video game universe that Sonic could potentially be. I also would personally really love a Blaze the Cat game. Like some sort of Blaze project would be my ultimate dream. And something I think could be really interesting if you want like more spin-off, like weird titles, is like do something starring the Chaotix, you know, like a visual novel like of the Chaotix solving a mystery would be really fun in my opinion. Or we could even get another Shadow game. I mean, I'm not gonna rule that out. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense you think about it for Sega to consider another Shadow project, because Shadow Generations being as successful as it is, and with the Sonic Movie 3 coming out, who knows how popular Shadow is going to be after that movie comes out. So they could potentially do another Shadow starring game, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, if Shadow could somehow like sustain his own side franchise within Sonic, like that would just be a testament as to how popular and how well written of a character Shadow is. I don't know if I can really see it. I feel like they would need like a really good idea to like pursue something like that, but there's so many possibilities. And the overall point I want to make is that Sega may feel more inclined to trust other characters and make other entries starring other characters. So if you have any ideas for that, then let me know in the comment section. But those are my two main like takeaways from this, is that we're definitely going to get more games in the essence and the vein of Shadow Generations, both in terms of gameplay and also like story and sound design, but we could be seeing more projects dedicated to solo characters as well. And it's truly like super exciting. Like, it's never been a better time to be a Sonic fan. And as someone who came into this franchise during Sonic Heroes, I've gone through the lowest of lows with Sonic, and I stuck with him this entire time because there's just something about the appeal of Sonic and the uniqueness and originality of his gameplay that it's always kept me coming back for more, because I always knew from the bottom of my heart that Sonic could be the greatest thing in gaming. Like, he truly could be. And to see Shadow Generations come out and basically be the game of my personal dreams, although a little shorter than I would have liked, it's riveting. It's exciting. It's relief. It's honestly just like a dream come true. And I'm so excited for what's to come in the future. And I really hope Sega just has even more surprises up their sleeves. But all right, y'all, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and feel free to subscribe to RidersDX for more like hot topic takes like this. I mean, Shadow Generations, go play it, go buy it, or else. But all right, this is Riders riding out.